addiction to winning, so I will work till I get it. The sweat is dripping, I'm in it, I'll never stop till I finish. I'm feeling demons possessing, they took a hold of my vessel, the energy of a devil, yeah. A new man, a new me, better watch out, you ain't never seen a beast. I don't always have control, he could be me. Got a chip on his shoulder and he got some sharp teeth. Anyone in my way, and anyone who betrayed, anyone I have to face, I'll wipe them out like a plague. You ain't never seen a beast. I don't always have control, he could be me. Got a chip on his shoulder and he got some sharp teeth. Anyone in my way, and anyone who betrayed, anyone I have to face, I'll wipe them out like a plague. Your will lies deep way under the surface, and like a fire needs coal in the furnace. This is your goal that makes it all worth it. This is your why that gives you your purpose. Let's go. Thoughts can keep you down, pushing deep until you drown, or they can keep you up strong, focused on the now. Glass half full, or has it been emptied out? Well, that's all up to you and your mind. Do you doubt anything, everything, not a thing? Make my thoughts work for me, manifest what I need, what I want, what I see. I could be anything, I attract all the things that I see. I believe I'll achieve as I breathe in and out.
All right. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope everyone enjoyed their fantastic 4th of July weekend. I know we had one day where it was a heat wave. The next day it was thunderstorms. And then the final day was beautiful. So I don't know about you, Cal, but my weekend was great.
Yeah, weekend sucked. Not gonna lie, it could have gone a lot better. Let's see. On Friday, Miles Michaelis absolutely committed an act of terrorism, unbeknownst to countless hapless folks in attendance. Then Saturday, lovely day. Cardinals, shout out Yo Pozo with his mammoth shot to left field, and then Eric Fetty. I'm so sick and tired. I'm
doing Eric Fetty things, right?
Tired. I'm exhausted. And there's one thing I do say though, is that Mozeliak is now probably on the hot seat more than he ever has been.
Sure.
And then out of nowhere comes out there's no Epstein list now. Well, that's a little. I think the timing of that's a little suspicious to me. I think there should be a little more digging being done. I'm starting to think there might be conspration involved.
I love it.
I'm starting to think something's coming at the top.
There's no foreshadowing in that in any way, shape,
Absolutely
or form. But yeah, well, that's good. Well, I know you shared off air with me your brisket fiasco as well.
Yeah, brisket sucked.
We won't go through that again. You've already had to live it twice at this point. So, yeah, I get it. But I'm hoping everyone else obviously had a better 4th of July than Cal and the St. Louis Cardinals did. Not to say that the Twins were any better, for what it's worth.
Sure.
We still suck. So, all right. Well, let's get into this week. We'll talk Week 14 stuff. We'll go power ranking standings like usual.
Mm-hmm.
Got a couple of trades to talk about, look at next week, and then we have the always beloved tier list at the end. So without further ado, we'll move right into takes from last week. The first thing I wanted to mention We do have an updated power rankings. So I wanted to pull that up. Nationals with a pretty big week. They all of a sudden pulled pretty far ahead again now in the rankings, just from a power score perspective. Kansas City jumping up to number 3. I'm pretty sure that's the first time Brendan's been up there in the top 3, so I'm sure he'll appreciate that. He's obviously done a lot of work. Him and John, not surprisingly, very, very close, fighting for the AL Central title as well as number 1 seed in the AL. So that's obviously a pretty big deal. And then, outside of that, the top 10 didn't really change a bunch. Duke with a rough week, obviously, dropping a bunch of spots. He's almost out of the top 10 now. I would assume hopefully after this week he'll be back up in there. But and then outside of that, your Angels sitting at 17, still doing all right. And I am still down at 28. So I wanted to point out, big week for the Twins because we hit double digits.
Huge.
We got
massive.
There. That was a goal.
So listen, out of that. You don't want to be there. We're pretty late for this to be single digits. I know. I've been there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's time to move up. But no, I think sums up the power rankings because we just played each other, the Rangers and myself, and could not have been farther apart. I think it was readily apparent how far off we were. Rangers, of course, with the highest score of the week. That bastard Zach Wheeler. I mean, this guy. He put up 67 points. First of all, same has 200 points on the pitching side of things. Absurd.
Wild.
And then 67 of that being from Zach Wheeler alone,
Yeah,
who had
wild.
an otherworldly week. I mean, it's not. I think Sam's the devil. I mean, he just manages to pull off these amazing runs with nothing. He has scraps.
Yeah.
He started with scraps, and he's turned off this I don't know. Maybe he's the best in the AL. I have no idea.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy what we're seeing out of him. He's been really strong since the dump date.
Yep.
And pretty much like Kevin said, he just did what I wanted to do, and he just did it well.
Yep.
I mean, it makes me furious.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out Sam with an awesome week.
Yeah, it's obviously the Wheeler thing was pretty crazy. The kind of, I guess, along the same spectrum of conversation there, just talking about playoffs in general. I'm gonna hit on my first 2 points because they both kind of talk about just playoffs in general, or actually all 3 of my points too, to be honest with you. And then we'll get into yours. But for me, the NL very well could be decided already in terms of who's in. We might just be fighting for seeding at this point. You can see the top 8 teams right here. Nationals sitting obviously in the number 1 spot, and then all the way down. Padres technically are in the power rankings; they're the last, but in the NL West, if they win that, they'll obviously be in the number 3 seed. You have a bunch. All 8 NL teams are in the top 12 power rankings, which is, I mean, it's kind of sad for the AL, not for the NL. But the interesting part is, Joe has declared he's not pushing for anything anymore, trying to trade away some pieces. He's 6 games out of the playoffs. So the chances are probably pretty slim given, how well the Padres have been playing. But he's only 2 spots back from a power rankings perspective. But other than that, top 8 sitting in the top 12. What are your thoughts there?
Well, for starters, let's crown the Padres now.
Yeah.
As the so shout out to the Padres.
Yeah.
I think we've known how the shift of power is all in the NL. I mean, it's been the NL ball game since the beginning of the season. Even after the dump date, which I think we were hoping that there would be some type of shift after the AL teams bought a ton, that we would see maybe it tips more in at least an even split, a 60-40. But no, we haven't really seen that being the case, at least at the very top. Maybe because in power rankings you get Tigers and Royals thrown in the mix.
Yep.
But as far as that kind of middle ground, like those I'd say opponents you're going to pick in the playoffs, the strong ones are going to be from the NL.
Yes.
So it makes for a fun race down the line. But I don't know. Maybe the AL is going to be where it's at as far as some upsets because the NL is just so top heavy, but it's still good all the way through. I mean, it's just ridiculously talented over there.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And speaking of how poorly maybe the AL is, I mean, outside of the Royals and Tigers, essentially whoever comes out of that matchup, we're assuming is going to represent us in the AL. Mm-hmm. But the AL, I mean, based on what I've seen on the trade block, the AL might be wrapped up as well, even though it's a much closer race. The two things I wanted to point out were the AL West all of a sudden has multiple playoff teams, 3 to be exact. The A's, Mariners, and Rangers are all in the playoffs right now. The A's would be the 3 seed, and then Mariners and Rangers would get in right after that. But the interesting part to me, at least from a power rankings perspective, is the last team in right now is your Angels.
Yeah,
which again, it just hurts my heart knowing the post you put up today. But the last couple of spots before I get your kind of opinion, I know you can kind of maybe air out how you're feeling, but
sure.
the Guardians hold it right now. They have 19 wins. Next is Tampa behind this, so 3 games back at 16, and then Toronto, and Houston are all at 15, so 4 games out. So what are your thoughts?
Really, I thought if I get in, I can maybe build a team that could, something crazy could happen. But I've been following everyone pretty closely as far as where they're at relative to me, the playoff teams.
Yep.
And I'm just not there. I'm just not there. I don't see a reason to kind of prolong the inevitable and get nothing for it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I figured, we'll throw in the towel before there's a secondary market that occurs with, like, we're already seeing it with Joe and stuff like that. I don't know if there's by some miracle Soto gets traded. It just seems like now would probably be the best time to call it quits, even though I kind of, I guess, accomplished somewhat of a goal of I'm in the conversation.
Yeah.
But it to what end, essentially? It's not going to be like a fun run to maybe sneak in an upset win. I just don't think it's possible with the team I currently have. The pitching is horrible. I genuinely cannot get a QA7 to save my life. I think since I've made these trades, I may have had like combined 4 or 5 QA7s in the past 4 or 5 weeks. So it's you can't do anything with that. And offense has been better, but it's just not a good team. It's just not a good team.
Do you think if you could go back to the trade or the dump deadline, I guess, or dump date, would you do things differently? Not in saying you wouldn't trade, but would you have had different targets?
I mean, some players just straight up sucked, and it's like Schwarber was not. I was talking to Kevin, but this is the first time Schwarber's not been otherworldly in June.
It's crazy.
Like,
it's
June
crazy.
Schwarber is a mythical being.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I got like he was okay, at best okay.
Yeah.
So it's just not what you want to see. All the pitchers I had that were pretty strong throughout, nothing. Even I took some risks as well. Maybe getting Eduardo Rodriguez. I've got a couple good starts out of him, but still he's so hit or miss. You just never know what you're gonna get. I mean, it's just it's a mess. It's really a mess. I'm kind of over it.
Well, and what's kind of crazy about the Schwarber thing too is he's having the best year of his career from a points per game 100%. Perspective. And so for you to kind of see that and feel that, and to look at the points, he's had certainly some really good days. He's also had some ones in there, some twos in there, right? So maybe the consistency more hasn't been there, right? Which you want out of a top guy, right? You don't necessarily need the 12s. You want the 3s and 4s and 5s with the occasional 12, right? I think that's more of the.
He's good for a team that's not your best hitter.
True.
That's where it's beneficial.
Yep.
He's a good supplement, not the full meal.
Yep.
So it's just not something I think is going to work out long term.
Yeah.
Figure I get in while the getting's good, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I take on some bad contracts, or I should say some expiring contracts, and people are dumping salary.
Yep.
And I can keep my head above water. Maybe I still sneak into an 8 spot.
Sure.
I have no idea. Because the other teams are still, they're completely bone dry. You know what I mean? It's like Rays sold, Guardians sold, White Sox are keeping their head above water.
Yep.
Maybe I can still manage. I doubt it. But yeah, I'd rather get while the getting's good before it's too late.
Yeah. Not necessarily a bad thing at all. All right, let's go. You have, I guess you already talked about the Padres. You want to talk about your last point that you had from last week?
It was interesting. I don't know if it's a 1 week sample, but also Dylan's gotten hit real bad with the injury bug. The A's are kind of struggling a little bit. I had down for 0-3. I thought they were playing somebody else, but no, they still beat the Marlins. It wasn't the best matchup, but lost to the Royals, which that's
Pretty
we
normal
kind
at
of
this
figured that
point.
was going to happen.
Yep.
But losing to the Rays was tough. You know, a team that's pretty much been checked out for at least a few weeks as
Yep.
far as talent wise is concerned. So to take that loss, not one that you expected going into the week, might have to reassess what needs to be done going forward with the injuries you've had to pop up randomly. So
Yep.
yeah, I guess back to the drawing board for the Athletics. Hopefully they can make a push. Maybe hey, hit me up. I don't know. I'll help anyone at this point. I don't care. I have no allegiances anymore.
Right, and
but-
especially with with Josh and Sam right there now. Right, that has definitely become an
Yes.
exciting race.
Game has to
probably
be
the
scaring
only
people.
Yeah, well, and I guess I would say maybe the AL Central. The Crown is a tight race, so that's interesting. And then the NL Central obviously is always intriguing. But yeah, I don't disagree there. All right, anything else from last week?
No.
All right, let's move on to the couple of trades that we had. So we'll go bottom up like always. So trade from last week, I'll just read it out, and then you throw out there what you think. So speaking of Sam, he picked up Jung Hoo Lee and Yandy and gave Linney Blade, Cronenworth, and Gasser. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Crony is a 2025, and Blade's kind of, I think pretty much cooked.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Gasser here, which we all love hurt pitchers around here. So I don't know how much when Linney can win this one.
Yeah.
Granted, Lee's not the cheapest compared to what you're getting.
He's probably not keepable. $17.
Yeah, 3 points a game at 17. Maybe you can swing it. I think you probably throw him into the pool and just try again.
Only one position. That's the hard part for me. If he was triple eligibility, then maybe. But yeah, single center fielder, probably not.
Yeah, it's a tough sell. And then of course Yandy's been phenomenal as of late.
Yep.
And 2025 though.
Yep.
So totally get Linney selling those assets, but the return it leaves a lot to be desired, I would say.
Yeah, I mean you're essentially just banking on Gasser. Right.
Yeah, that's what the deal is for. Yeah,
yep,
definitely.
Literally Gasser for the other two. So yeah, I completely agree. I think, if I'm Linney, you look at Sam's team, the minors are hit or miss depending on who you might like. So maybe I would have liked to try and get some other non-2025 contract out of it, but maybe that was kind of part of the deal too. Who knows. And then the last one, also including Linney, he sent Aroldis Chapman to the A's, who we just talked about, for a third-round pick. Thoughts on that?
Best case scenario for both parties. Obviously, we just said Dylan's been hit with injuries, so he goes out, gets a nice relief bonus. Doesn't cost him a ton. Yep. I mean, third-round pick. It's probably a little steep at this stage of the game, but Chapman's been great this season. And as far as Linney's concerned, getting a third-round pick for nothing, because it has no impact on your team, is about as good as you're going to get. So, yeah, I think this is a win-win for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I look to the trade with Sam, and I say, why not go for a pick there? I looked at Sam's team, and I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't have any picks, but he's got a 4 and 3, or 3 5s this year. So, I mean, I certainly could have gotten one of those instead of Cronenworth or instead of Blade, right? And then even 2027, he's got a 3, 4, and 5, right? So, I mean, I look at that and I say, oh, maybe that would have been a better target, but
and maybe Linney's banking on pedigree with Blade. I don't know. I guess we're kind of backtracking.
Well, he's a 2025 though.
Yeah. Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he's
okay.
2025.
Well, then that doesn't make a ton of sense then. In that case.
Yeah. So that's why I was thinking. I was like, man, two 2025s in Gasser. So essentially, it's literally Gasser for the other two, right?
Tough.
That's basically what it is. Okay, that was it there. Anything else you wanted to point out or talk about transaction-wise?
Oh, no.
Good to go. All right, let's look next week. Pull up the schedule here. Why don't you hit us off? What's your first match for the week?
Yeah, Pirates hit a skid last week. They went 0-3, which was unheard of for them. So is this kind of their week to kind of take back revenge, and they get to do it against all NL Central lineup here: Cubs, Cardinals, Brewers.
Pretty crazy.
It could be disaster, or it could be a masterclass of a week. We know Duke's got the magic 8-ball luck. I mean, the guy just manages to spin silk like no matter what. So perhaps we'll see something. And then the other one I had was another interdivisional matchup, and it's the Athletics trying to stave off the uprising of the Mariners and Rangers.
Big matchups
facing this week. huge, absolutely huge. So those are my two to look out for.
Yeah, I'm trying to see who else. Seattle's got Arizona and the Yankees, so they're probably 1-1 there. And then the Rangers. Who else do they have? They have Toronto, who should be a win.
Yep.
And Cleveland, who
I mean, Cleveland has not exactly been
should be a win, right? I mean, you'd think so.
Cleveland might be topping out at 240.
Yeah, so that could be a big. Sam gets the win there. He pretty guarantees that he's going to be at least tied for first at the very worst.
Which just it's crazy turnaround, insane turnaround.
It's incredible. For me, I was looking at a team we talked about before, White Sox. Their slate this week. Again, they're in the playoffs currently, right? Sitting right at 500. Probably going to sneak in towards the end, but more so they're playing Kansas City, who's that'll probably be a loss, you would think. Miami probably should be a win, and then Tampa again, who still is somehow hanging around in the AL. That potentially could be a competitive game. So, chance for the White Sox to potentially go, maybe 2-1 at least. But we'll see there.
Yeah, and I still can't tell if they want to be in the playoffs.
It's so hard to tell.
That's because
Tom hasn't done anything.
I'm trying to track them down. I mean, they're kind of that last team in the 8th spot, and I just don't know where they're at. I have no idea whether or not they're, I guess, taking the run seriously, or if they're buying, or if they're, more than willing just to sell some pieces off or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, and maybe he's okay just sitting too, right? Like, which is very odd in ABL.
I would say so,
for what it's worth, but
certainly, and it may just be he has a pretty young team. Yeah, definitely know that. So he doesn't really feel the need to start selling a bunch of stuff for no reason.
Yep.
So who knows? But this is definitely one of the week to put up or shut up because there's some hard opponents for sure.
Agreed. And then my last matchup was Detroit against the Cubs this week. Mainly just two, top 5, top 10 teams. Should be obviously a good showdown. Probably actually, I take that back. It's a big matchup for both teams, given that Frank's obviously vying really for a playoff spot right now, and John's trying to win the AL Central. John's other two matchups, Mets and Rockies, should be wins easy, so this could be a 3-0 week for him. And I guess I didn't even look. Kansas City, I said, had the White Sox, the Blue Jays, and Guardians, so should be a 3-0 week for Brendan. So that is going to be a pretty big game for John for sure. But
absolutely.
All right, well that's it for this week. Anything else you got there?
No.
All right, let's head over to the tier list.
All right, let's
go. As always,
July.
I have not seen this outside of this first slide.
Neither have I.
Yeah, hence the foreshadowing. But yeah, you go ahead and take it away, good sir.
All right, we have our first tier. Hopefully everyone watched the hot dog contest. Our beloved American hero is back, Joey Chestnut, and you just really see dominance in its full form. I don't know if there's anyone better at their craft than Joey Chestnut is at his. And these teams, I think, are pretty indicative of that. They've been at the top of the food chain for a few weeks now, and it just seems like they're a bar above everybody else. Everyone's putting up a good fight, but these two teams have just been better. So we go to our second.
So question on that one. Just out of the blue, if we as a country had to select someone that when we say USA, this person's name or this person's face comes up, do you think Joey Chestnut would be a top 10 member on that list?
Almost certainly, I'd say I'd throw Soulja Boy in there for sure as well. Mainly just his entrepreneurial spirit. But yeah, Joey Chestnut for sure would be on that list.
That is a wild pull. Okay.
But
we'll go to tier 2. We'll go to tier 2.
All right. Tier 2, we have Kobayashi. And for all our hot dog heads who would maybe not know, Kobayashi was kind of the OG, kind of the guy that everyone looked up to early in the game for Joey's reign took over. And these teams, listen, they're all great teams. Kobayashi was a great eater. But the second you see a Chestnut, you realize, I can't really keep up with this level of talent. And I think these teams kind of fall in that. They're phenomenal teams in their own right. If Joey Chestnut didn't exist, these teams would be in the 1-1 category. But they're unfortunately the teams above them do exist.
Two divisions only so far in the first 2 tiers.
Correct.
Pretty insane.
How the league rolls right now. So yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
We go into our next tier. We have Texas Roadhouse. Now this one is like
I love it.
Texas Roadhouse is a cultural staple in white trash places.
100%.
So yeah, 100%.
I have one right down the road.
Yeah, it is like so swanky. Like it's like we're going to Roadhouse. Well, it's going to be a special occasion. But then you go to like a larger place and you realize, wow, I didn't realize. Okay, Texas Roadhouse might actually be kind of like trashy, and it's what these teams are. These teams are good AL teams, and then you look at real teams, and you're like, gee, okay, never mind. I don't even think
they're not actually
we're
that
in the same
good.
ballpark here. Yeah, these teams actually kind of suck. Not
That's
gonna lie,
great.
when you compare them. So yeah, these are teams that we think look good compared in AL terms, but you look at the NL, it's just not the case.
Love that.
And we have our fourth tier here. We have dog going to vet tier. These are teams that are pretty happy with themselves, I would say, but they have no idea the fate that awaits them. The optimism right now is at its peak, and within the next coming months, some horrible fate will befall them, and they just have no idea about it. But right now, don't bother them. They got their pup cup in the back of the seat. They're fine. They're pretty happy right now.
Hell yeah.
Yep. We go to our next tier. These are John Jones tier. These are are they in or are they out? I have no idea. Are they going to go to the play? I don't know if anyone's heard, but John Jones pretty much said he might be back in after retiring for the second time.
Crazy.
What are we doing there? So these teams all fall in that category. I don't know if these are playoff teams or not. They need to decide right now whether or not they're going to be, because it's getting close, and we have no idea where they're at.
Crazy.
And we go into our next tier, our second to last tier here, Facebook Marketplace. You'll just be scrolling and you'll just see, free for pickup. We'll meet at a public location, maybe the local McDonald's, something like that, someplace where I'm not gonna get stabbed. Obviously, I'll give you a Kyle Schwarber for a discount.
Yeah, right.
I've had him up for 2 weeks. I knocked it down $10.
Yep. I have a feeling that's gonna be very accurate in a few weeks here too.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have our final tier, our Miles Michaelis tier. This is for the real. This is for the real, just down in the dumps folks that really aren't seeing much of a future for the rest of the season.
Yep.
And, may just get DFA'd. We have no idea. But
hopefully not out of ABL, but maybe just.
Hopefully not ABL.
Yeah,
just out of the season. General. Out of the season. So, yeah, that's our July tier list in summation.
God, I was after the first two, I was like, is this man really going to run down some of the best competitive eaters of all time? Dude, I was like, where's Badlands gonna be? It's gonna be like you got the lemonade chug, man. I figured he's good at only one thing, so we'll find a team that's good at only one thing.
Don't think I wasn't going there.
Yeah, I
absolutely
have to think you probably thought about it at least.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was on the mind.
Good stuff. Well,
all right.
Thanks everyone, obviously, for joining. Again, hope everyone had a great 4th, great holiday. And yeah, that's all we got for this week. So we will talk to everyone in the Discord. See y'all later.
See you.
They banished me, never to be seen, to a place where the air's always full of screams. So hot that the land only grows weeds. A place filled with demons and ghosts, tumbleweeds. Betrayed by some comrades at too brute. I'ma get you all back. It's not if, no it's when. Better watch out, cause I'm coming for revenge. I'ma train hard, I'ma go far. I will learn with every new scar. Got a cold heart, yeah, I'm feeling arc. Enemies give me energy from the start. Got an addiction to winning, so I will work till I get it. The sweat is dripping, I'm in it, I'll never stop till I finish. I'm feeling demons possessing, they took a hold of my vessel. The energy of the devil, yeah.